Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Tori, and welcome to me filling out my NCAA tournament bracket for 2019. Now, if you're new to this channel, which pretty much everybody is, it's a very small channel as of now, make sure you subscribe down below. Make sure you watch the intro video on this channel that I posted a couple days ago, as it outlines a lot of the plans that I have for this channel. And if you're a college basketball fan, you'll definitely enjoy the content that I have coming up. So last year I had my own channel just under my own name, and I filled out a bracket that was actually pretty good. It won me my bracket pool, and a couple of people in the comment section said that the advice that I gave helped them win their bracket pool too. The thing is, I don't do chalk at all. I basically try and perfectly predict the NCAA tournament, and every year there's some sort of craziness, and I try and predict that, and I go out on a limb with a lot of my picks. For ESPN's bracket pools, these might not be the best picks for you. For me, they're good picks because I run a pool that adds the seed to the total when you get a seed right. So say you get the 6th seed right, you'd get the points for that round plus 6 seed. If you get the 11th seed right, you get the points for that round plus 11. So it rewards upsets, so you can be a little bit more free with going out on a limb with a lot of your picks. So that is the whole basis behind this bracket. And with that being said, let's jump into me filling it out. Now, I'm going to start off by advancing all the 1 seeds. Might have another UMBC. I'm not going to say what I did last year when I said Virginia is not going to lose in the first round, and then they did. I'm not going to make a fool of myself like that. But let's start down here on the left. We got Duke versus UCF. I accidentally already advanced Duke, but they're not going to lose in the first couple of rounds for sure. 12 Liberty versus 5 Mississippi State. I just got a feeling about Liberty. I don't know. I have a weird bias against SEC teams, but Mississippi State isn't that impressive to me. And I wanted to pick Mississippi State, but I just had this feeling. I see a future vision of Liberty beating Mississippi State. So we'll see if that's right. And then we got 4-seeded Virginia Tech. It's weird having an Atlantic 10 team like St. Louis, which is a little bit bigger of a conference than most mid-majors. It's weird having a team like that at 13. Belmont and Temple versus Maryland. Gotta roll with first 4 teams somewhere. I think every single season that they've had a first 4 team, at least one of them has won in the next round. So I think it's going to be either Belmont or Temple, because I'm not a big fan of Maryland. LSU advancing past... Ooh. This one's definitely going to be tough. I wanted to automatically advance LSU, but I always try and pick a 14 seed. And LSU is my least favorite 3 seed, and I thought Yale should have been a bottom 12 seed or a 13 seed, and Ivy League schools tend to do pretty well. So this might be one of those picks where I'm stepping out on a limb, but LSU, they don't have their coach anymore. They have a lot of distractions. They didn't really end the season too well. I'm going to go with Yale against them. And then we got Minnesota, that I think is going to be Louisville. And then we got Michigan State. So here we got Gonzaga. Syracuse always does well in the tournament. I'm a Gonzaga fan. I'm really worried about this matchup in the second round. But then this matchup right here, Marquette, Murray State, John Morant versus Marcus Howard. Probably the best one-on-one individual matchup in the entire tournament. I'm rooting for John Morant. I want to see Murray State win. I've always been a fan of their university and their program, and I'm hoping they can pull that off. Florida State passing Vermont, beating Vermont in that 4-13 matchup. Got Buffalo and Texas Tech. It's pretty chalk here until we get to Florida, who I think will beat Nevada, because Nevada's just fallen apart during this stretch run. They have no momentum. I don't think they have confidence. I think there's a little bit more pressure on them this year than there was last year when they made that run as the 7th seed. Then Michigan versus Montana. I'm going to pick Montana. Now, if there wasn't a seed bonus, I would roll with Michigan, but I wanted to pick a 15 seed this year. The past couple years, I haven't done so. There's been years in the past, Florida Gulf Coast specifically, where I almost picked them to beat Georgetown, and I didn't. And then they ended up beating Georgetown, and I regretted it. I ended up being in the same position with Michigan and Montana, and I don't want to regret it. And since we get the seed bonus, I'm going to pick Montana. Michigan is one of those defensive teams like a Virginia that I could see just having a terrible shooting night. If Brazdeikis isn't hitting shots and Charles Matthews gets into foul trouble, being their best defender and likely matched up against Ahmad Rory, who's a guy that I've played against before and a really good guard for Montana, then their offense could definitely struggle, and Montana can make shots. So that is the most likely 15-2 matchup in my opinion. Going to Virginia, and then we got Ole Miss over Oklahoma. And then this area right here is very, very interesting to me. You got Oregon out of the Pac-12 playing hot against a Wisconsin team that always seems to struggle in March Madness. I don't know. I always have a pretty good track record picking upsets against them. So I'm going to keep it going with Oregon. And then UC Irvine against Kansas State, who will be without Dean Wade. And Kansas State made a run last year without him. But UC Irvine, they absolutely crushed it during their conference tournament. They didn't look like a mid-major in their conference championship game. They were shooting the lights out of the basketball, and this is going to be my 13-12 matchup. I seem to do this every year, but I really think both Oregon and UC Irvine have great chances to win these games. Villanova versus St. Mary's. I know St. Mary's beat Gonzaga, and that sucked for me, but I'm still not impressed by St. Mary's. We got Villanova moving on. Jay Wright, I don't think he'd let them lose in the first round. Purdue moving on, and then Cincinnati is one of the most underseeded teams in the entire tournament. I thought they should have been a 5 or 6 seed. They absolutely crushed Houston earlier today, and Houston's a 3 seed, but they got slotted in as a 7. They're going to be playing their games in Columbus, Ohio, which is right in their own backyard, so they're going to have a home court advantage. I really like Cincinnati. And then Tennessee beating Colgate. And we got North Carolina, Utah State over Washington. I'm a Washington fan second. I'm from the Northwest, and I'm a Gonzaga fan first, Washington fan second, but Washington's really been struggling lately, and I'm just not impressed by their team. I think if they were in a better conference, I don't think they would have had the resume to even make the tournament. I got Utah State moving on there. Then Auburn versus New Mexico State. I always roll with New Mexico State. They always let me down. Auburn's playing very, very well right now. So we're going to have Auburn moving in. The team that just crushed Tennessee in the SEC championship game. I like to roll with teams that are hot, and Auburn is definitely playing great, and they can really light up the scoreboard, and their interior defense is improved this year compared to last year. Last year, their interior defense was a problem, and it was really one of the reasons why they weren't able to advance too far in the NCAA tournament. I believe they made the Sweet 16, but in that Sweet 16 game, I believe they got blown out. So we got Auburn moving on, and then Kansas versus Northeastern. I almost picked Northeastern. I'm just not impressed by Kansas. I wasn't even impressed when they were the #1 team in the nation early in the season. I just don't think they have that much talent, and I don't see their freshmen standing up. Their freshmen seem to have been a little bit bothered by the big and bright lights of college basketball, and that's only going to be magnified in the NCAA tournament. Iowa State, another team that's very hot. Ohio State, not that impressed by them. And then Houston, I got them moving on against Georgia State. Wofford might be a Cinderella team, and if they can make a run, Fletcher McGee and that team is definitely going to be a fan favorite, much like Loyola Chicago was last season. And Kentucky beating Abilene Christian, I believe it's called. So then we're going up here, Duke over UCF, and then Virginia Tech over Liberty. I could definitely see Liberty beating Virginia Tech. I thought Virginia Tech should have been a 5, maybe a 6 seed, and they are without Justin Robinson, but I'm going to play it safe there. Virginia Tech moving on. And then 11 versus 14, moving on with the 11 seed. Now, I picked Loyola Chicago as the 11 seed to make the Sweet 16 in this exact part of the bracket last season. Hopefully, I can replicate that luck. And then we got Michigan State moving on to face Belmont or Temple. And then Gonzaga versus Syracuse. I think Syracuse has a very good chance at winning this game for an 8 seed, but I'm going to roll with my guys. Going to roll with Gonzaga. And then Florida State beating Murray State. And Murray State with John Morant, they could be a sleeper for sure. Anytime you have a guy that talented, you can make a run no matter how bad the supporting cast is. I still got Florida State moving on. They're playing very well. And that sets up a Sweet 16 matchup that we had in this exact portion of the bracket last season, and Florida won that as the 9 seed over Gonzaga, who was the 4. Texas Tech versus Buffalo, got Texas Tech moving on, and then Florida versus Montana, a 10 versus 15, we got Florida. We're not going to go crazy and put Montana in the Sweet 16. Going up here, Virginia versus Ole Miss. I think Virginia will avenge themselves get to the Sweet 16, which they struggle to do. And then we got Oregon and UC Irvine, and I'm actually going to roll with UC Irvine. I've never put a 13 seed in the Sweet 16, but I really like the way they're able to play both sides of the ball. I really like the way they've been shooting lately. So we got UC Irvine beating the Oregon Ducks. Villanova versus Purdue. I'm rolling with Purdue. I'm not that impressed by Villanova this season, although I think they have a very good chance at beating St. Mary's. I think Purdue is just at that next level, and I don't think Villanova has the talent that they've had in years past to be able to keep up with a team like Purdue. Cincinnati over Tennessee. Cincinnati, as I said, playing in their own backyard. Tennessee's been struggling lately. Cincinnati's a pretty physical team that plays really good defense, and I see the Tennessee Volunteers really struggling to get good shots. I think that a physical team like Cincinnati is the type of team that gives Tennessee fits. And as I said, Cincinnati is underseeded. They've been in the tournament every year in like the past 8 years or something. I think this is the year they finally make a run. North Carolina versus Utah State. I think North Carolina might be one of those teams that is really good, but for some reason gets upset. If Cam Johnson and Kobe White aren't really hitting shots, then that team's going to struggle. Their defense is meh, but they can definitely run the floor. If Utah State is able to control the pace and Kobe White and Cam Johnson aren't making shots, they have a good chance of winning this game. Next, we have Auburn and Kansas, and I got Auburn moving on. So that might be a surprise Sweet 16 matchup. I know a lot of people are expecting North Carolina and Kansas, but I got Utah State and Auburn. As I said, I'm going out on a limb with a few of these picks. Iowa State and Houston, I'm rolling with Iowa State. They're playing too well right now. They're very, very hot. And then Kentucky over Wofford, although I might be rooting for Wofford to win this game, to be honest. Duke and Virginia Tech, got to keep rolling with Zion and the boys. We got Duke moving on to the Elite Eight to go up against Michigan State, which is an insane matchup because Michigan State, I thought they were going to possibly be a 1 seed after beating Michigan, and instead they're a 2 seed, not even the top 2 seed, and they end up going up against Duke. Michigan State kind of got screwed over by being put in the same bracket as Duke. I don't know why the committee did that, but then Virginia beating UC Irvine, and then I'm rolling with Cincinnati going to the Elite Eight. I have pretty good record with 7 seeds making the Sweet 16. I pick a 7 seed to make the Elite Eight almost every year. Last year was Nevada. They almost did it. The year before it was Michigan, I believe. They made the Sweet 16 and then lost to Oregon in crunch time. So I've been close pretty much every year that I've picked a 7 seed to go to the Elite Eight. Hopefully Cincinnati can finally pull through for me. Gonzaga versus Florida State. This is another tough matchup for Gonzaga, but I have them beating Florida State. And then Texas Tech and Florida. Got Texas Tech and Jarrett Culver moving on there. And then Utah State and Auburn. I love the way Auburn's playing right now. Bruce Pearl is a very good coach, and just their offensive potential just to light up the scoreboard. Gotta keep rolling with Auburn. And then Iowa State too is a team that's very, very hot. So this is kind of my upset region. Got a 5 versus 6. I don't think I've ever done that before, but Iowa State's just playing so well. They just beat Kansas. They just won the Big 12 tournament. I think they're about as talented as Kentucky. Iowa State is just much more inconsistent. But if Iowa State can play consistent and play up to their talent level, then I could definitely see Iowa State taking care of Kentucky. I could definitely see Iowa State making the Elite Eight, maybe even the Final Four. One of these teams is going to make the Final Four. We'll see when we get there. Duke versus Michigan State. As I said, I'm going out on a limb, and I don't like to pick chalk. And even though I think Duke will be most likely to win this game, I want to go with Michigan State. I think Michigan State has the talent, has the veterans, has the coaching staff to be able to put together a good game plan and execute it against Duke. They definitely have the experience advantage. So I got Michigan State moving on there. Normally I don't pick the top overall seed to win the championship, and I know I'm probably crazy for not going with Duke, but I feel like everybody's going to go with Duke, so I'm not going to go with Duke. And then Gonzaga versus Texas Tech. I'm rolling with Gonzaga all the way to the Final Four. Hopefully they make it. As a fan of them, it makes me nervous to put them in the Final Four because if they lose early, I'm really going to be bummed out for my bracket and as a diehard fan of the Gonzaga Bulldogs. But I got Gonzaga and Michigan State as the first Final Four matchup. Then Virginia versus Cincinnati. I think this will be the year that Virginia finally makes the Final Four. They've always been a top team in the past few years, but they always seem to get upset in March Madness. I think this is the year they overcome it, maybe learn from their mistakes, and play with with a chip on their shoulder after losing to a 16 seed last season. And then Auburn and Iowa State, I'm rolling with Auburn all the way to the Final Four, and I saw odds for teams to win the championship, and I believe Auburn was like 8th or 9th, even though they were a 5 seed. I was very surprised, but it does make sense. They're playing insane basketball right now, beat Tennessee by 20, so there's no reason why they wouldn't have a chance at making the Final Four in this bracket. Michigan State and Gonzaga, I'm rolling with Michigan State. I don't want my bracket to be so screwed up by Gonzaga losing that I lose my champion, you know what I mean? I'll be super bummed out as a fan. I don't want to lose my championship game team as well. I think Michigan State will make the Final Four in this game. I think Michigan State poses a lot of matchup problems for Gonzaga. And then we got Virginia and Auburn, and Virginia might lose in the first round again to a 16 seed. They might lose in the second round. It makes me kind of nervous doing this because I've been burned once before by putting them in my championship game a few years ago. But I got Virginia going to the championship. And then Michigan State winning it all. A 2 seed and not a 1. As I said, it's not chalk, but Michigan State, in my opinion, should have been a 1 over North Carolina. I predicted North Carolina to be a 1 in my bracketology just based on what I felt the committee would do. But in my opinion, Michigan State is probably the second or third best team in this entire field. So I feel pretty comfortable with putting them as my champion. It just sucks that they have to go against Duke in the regional final if they make it that far. So anyway, that is my bracket picks for this year. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. As I said, I've won my bracket pool 2 years in a row. Did I say that? I don't know if I said it, but I've won my bracket pool 2 years in a row. So even though these predictions seem crazy, people said I was crazy when I predicted 7 seed Nevada versus 11 seed Loyola Chicago in the Sweet 16 last year, and then it actually happened, and that was very rewarding to actually get that matchup right in the Sweet 16. So crazy picks, but you know, it might be right, it might be like it's been the past couple years, and it might win you a bracket pool, or it might be very, very wrong, and I might look like a fool, and you guys might go back after this and say, what were you thinking by doing this and doing that? Anyway, just let me know what you think down in the comment section below. As I said in the intro, make sure to subscribe and like this video, and with that, I'm out of here, so I'll see you guys later. This has been Tori. Peace out.